Hey, it's Todd. I had a dream last night, and it was an interesting dream because I dreamed I was running a one-shot for some kind of group of players. I really don't recall how or why I ended up in this situation where I had to improv a one-shot, but there it is. I don't recall much about the dream, but I do recall some vague elements of what this adventure that I was dream running for a dream party was all about. I thought it was a little bit interesting just in terms of, hey, it's a dream, and that I think in itself is kind of fun. And then the setup, and as far as I got to, was maybe interesting too. Maybe it shows me a little bit of how my mind works, or at least maybe my subconscious, my collective unconscious, I don't know, some kind of subconscious thing. Anyway, let's get to it. So, first of all, the party started out in a settlement. I don't recall describing the settlement at all. I had this idea in my mind that it was isolated, potentially in a valley, some other situation in which this settlement was pretty much by itself. I also remember describing that there was one road that led into the village, and it was controlled by a family or a group of some sort that charged tolls to go in and out of the village. I also recall super vaguely some idea that I might have hinted to the party or told them outright that their objective for this one shot was to establish another route in or out of the village. They also had access to a riverfront because there was a river that went by the village, and in fact there was some unused dock that was on the waterfront. That was all I remember from the village itself. I do recall that the party forded the village. I remember saying something that the river might have been a little bit rough, but not too bad because they were able to get across it without using a boat. And on the other side of the river, they found a rowboat that had been busted open from a rock. I think I remember describing it that it had a big hole in the bottom and there was a rock sticking out of it on the shore or on the far side of the river. And then there was some sort of fortified mansion house building. Again, I don't remember saying much about what it was. I certainly don't remember saying what it was constructed out of. I think I remember the only kind of cues I gave was that the walls were very, very thick and that the windows were very narrow, kind of arrow slit-like, though that's words I'm using now to describe it in terms arrow slits. I don't think I used it then, but I do remember thinking, yeah, that the window's very narrow. I remember my mental process thinking that this is some kind of defensive strong point. So narrow windows, thick walls construction. I don't remember saying what the walls were made of. I do remember that one of the dream players seemed to pick up on the fact that this was some kind of defensive building, and I remember myself dream nodding in agreement, like, yes, he gets it. But whatever. They go into the building and they find it's empty. It's completely bare. But as they're moving around, one of the players notices that the floor, which is wood, one part of it kind of has that kind of hollow sound when they knock on it, obviously suggesting a space that is localized there as opposed to being beneath the entire floor. For some reason, I don't remember describing there being any kind of hatch or secret door or anything, but it didn't matter because I think they took axes or something and they just busted a hole in the floor. When they busted open that hole, they found that they discovered a shaft that went down somewhere deep into the darkness. Using rope and some of the details of what the party did, I don't recall at all, but I do recall that at some point they able to rig up some kind of rope, and at least one of the party members went down into the shaft. I also recall saying that they went through a fair amount of solid, not necessarily like it was stone or dirt, but like there was a lot of fill. Essentially, that there might have been a lower floor that had been filled up with stuff, and then I guess put a new floor put on, or just that they filled up an entire floor of stuff. But the shaft keeps going down. The shaft ends in a void that turns out to be something akin to a root cellar. I don't think I used the term root cellar to describe it, but there is an open area with a dirt floor. Sometime after they came down, and again, my recollection super fuzzy about how many players there were total, how many players doing what. In any case, here there were skeletons that were I just had this idea they were interred just in this loose dirt. They start rising out of the ground. They're grabbing at people, they're attacking, and we have a combat that is on. I think my idea, which I remember somewhat, being that there had been some sort of calamity and that these folks had been interred down here and then separated from the rest of the building by that floor of fill. Obviously, it didn't seem like they had left any means for anything to go up other than the shaft, so there were no stairs, anything like that. Just left down there. That's where they were until they came back alive, I suppose. The party I want to say using grenades, or I think they called them fire bombs or things like that. At some point, again, it's a dream, melee, and people are dropping stuff all over the place, explosions, things like that, doing a pretty good job of beating the undead, though I remember it being, at least in my mind, that it was a challenging encounter for them, but they seem to be winning the day. But at the same time, I started to describe how the ground beneath them now is loose and it's shaking and unstable. And then they are, and this is where, unfortunately, my sort of dream ends, is in terms of the adventure, falling down into some deeper space. Now, what I remember from this deeper space is that there was something worse, big, bad, Balrog-y, I don't know, sort of evil down there that was on another level that they had awakened, reawakened, and been waiting around, whatever, and was now, they were now, falling down into that space. And I think one of the last things I remember in terms of my dream GM duties was thinking about what they were going to roll for falling damage for falling down there. Now, I don't know why the creature was there. I think I have these weird fleeting recollections that there was some connection, which makes sense, between the dead that were interred in that kind of root cellar level and the thing that was beneath them. Maybe there's some kind of battle. I don't really recall any of that. Only that, okay, yeah, there's some connection there, but that's as far as I got. I didn't even get in the dream, at least that I remember, describing whatever this thing was, or even whatever the space was they went down in there. That was it. So kind of a fun dream. When I woke up this morning, I was like, oh, I kind of wish I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. So some interesting things here as I kind of self-analyzing it this morning. The settlement, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, I guess, in terms of a one-shot or something like that. It's fine. You just go with it. Maybe it's a mining town and it's in some kind of valley surrounded by hills. There's only one way in and out. It seems a little bit like, well, maybe if it's a mining settlement, that might make some sense, because you put the town or where all the miners live is, I guess, as near to the actual mines as you could get. And then, yeah, there might only be one way out of this area. But beyond that, it's a little bit not exactly sensical. The goal of establishing another a transportation angle is kind of interesting, and there are lots of questions that we could ask ourselves. Is, okay, they have access to water, and I did mention that the water was rough, but probably not insurmountable since they put docks there, so it's not like it was so clogged with rapids that you couldn't get boats or barges up and down there. And I even mentioned that there was a rowboat, albeit with a hole in it, but certainly not insurmountable problems. So there's that, and you want to ask yourself the questions of, well, if they had built this dock, if clearly some people had rowboated across the river, why did they stop? We have this kind of guardhouse, moat house, kind of, not actually a moat house, but sort of a similar sort of defensive point here. No idea what it's for. Is it defending from the village? Is it defending the village? Is it defending the river? Is it defending something from the river? No idea. Clearly something really awful happened down there, but why keep the building intact? Why bury all those people in that kind of root cellar area and then just keep the building? It sort of, it seems to suggest that this guardhouse was in use after all those people were killed. I suppose they had boarded up the shaft and they figured as long as nobody's stupid enough to go down that shaft and mess around with it, we're fine now. But maybe you could just, burn the place down, make a memorial, make a warning. Hey, stay away from here. Don't do it. So, which begs this question: if that event didn't cause this house to be destroyed or otherwise abandoned, what did? I suppose it's possible that this was built on top of something else that had this. Maybe there was some kind of warning or something, and some later date it was turned into a guardhouse and then later abandoned. These are all questions I don't know. That's all I got. I just thought it was a fun thing that happened to me. Let me know if you guys get those kinds of dreams. You ever remember anything from your dreams? You ever end up using the stuff in your games? I think there's questions and answers. I threw it up I'm throwing it up on my forums. You can check it out at forums.hex.press, where if you feel like talking about, answering some of these questions that I've asked about myself, or posing new ones, or coming up with your own ideas, that would be awesome. I just thought I would share it. That's all I got for now. So have a great day, night, or the rest of whenever you're gonna end up watching or listening to this. Game on, and I'll talk to you later.